these platforms and much more. Hello, Ingrid. How are you?
I'm very well, and Happy New Year to you both.
Happy New Year.
So yeah, happy to be here.
Such an interesting playlist. How about we listen to the first song?
Which is
Good Texan by the Warren Brothers. For me, but and what are the same sound because for my ear it sounds the same. So it's amazing how many times I said something like Wi-Fi. That's how my work understands me. It's probably different they do with it. Something like that.
so what I was asking, so the Dutch fought alongside the Allies, did they?
Yeah.
And so what happened when Germans invaded the country? Did they surrender, or did they continue to try and fight?
I'm actually not 100% sure whether they surrendered or not. I don't know whether they did, but Eindhoven, which is where my mother lived, and she was one of 8 children. So they lived in Eindhoven, and Eindhoven was the most bombed city in New Zealand. They had so many craters in the city. It was really devastated. And so my mother, who was about 5 at the time, she was 5 in 1940. She and her brother, they would go around and also find the English soldiers that would be in a camp nearby, and they would try and they would give them cigarettes and chocolate. But in the nearby craters from the bombings, there would be leftover food that they would throw out, and they would go and basically scrounge around and scramble for food, or they would eat grass on the side of the road and stuff like that.
It's remarkable that she had those memories.
And the other thing is really interesting. And one day, this English officer came around who found out these kids who basically aimed his gun at them he didn't want the kids around in the camp. Whereas the soldiers were really friendly because they couldn't get kids of their own. But next door to the house where my mum lived, and across the road, there was a house occupied by German soldiers who lived next door, and across the road from their house was the German officers who lived. And the interesting thing was, the soldiers figured out that there were children next door, and they would always give them food.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was really nice actually of them because they also had families.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So
it wasn't really war, and from person to person, but it was just something everybody had to do.
All wars are the same. It's always
it's a game.
Death,
it's terrible,
right? Whatever comes with it, they're all the same. Yeah.
Gives me goosebumps actually just talking about it.
It must have been just so scary. We can't imagine. We can't imagine how terrifying it must have been.
Yeah.
Well, so we're going to talk a little bit about Extravaganza, and after the second song, we're going to talk slightly about the food that you brought today. We're going to try some Dutch food. Exciting. But in general, it's just like exposing people to your food is a great privilege, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's really amazing. We did discuss what I don't want to discuss. Private life or political views. Are you pretty?
The only thing I would want to discuss is my ex-husband, but otherwise everything.
Yeah, okay. But it's okay. We're going to skip it too much of the history.
Is he around?
Just not to discuss politics.
Oh, sorry.
Immediately ask this question.
The thing is, if you had, I never would have thought to ask you about your husband. Mention it, it makes me want to ask.
After the show. Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies with Hawkeye Bistro and Bar, the tastiest food show on the Most FM. It's us, Arina Williams and Warwick Foy, your local foodies, broadcasters, and, in my case, salutations. And we have an amazing guest today, Ingrid van Amsterdam. She joined us as the representative of Taranaki Multi Ethnic Council and founder and director of Biograview. And a lot of people know you, Ingrid, because your face has appeared in a lot of situations, interviewed a lot of people. Tell tell us about the project Biograview.
Well, that's really interesting because currently, I mean, I've been obviously going through some major changes. Biograview's we've been absolutely on a roller coaster of producing a regular magazine, which is really full on, and then quite ignorantly, I thought that COVID wasn't going to affect us whatsoever, and of course, I was completely mistaken. And our company we used for printing our magazine actually closed their printing division for us, and I was already like really hanging in there by that time. And I thought this has to be a sign, and also physically, I was actually suffering because it was, I was doing so much, in the background, like basically running the show on my own, but there were lots of teams in the background as well and other companies, that I worked with, and my writers, and so yeah, it was so full on. And anyway, the printing division closed, and for me, and my health was suffering. I rested, I couldn't sleep. I could sleep, but I didn't have time to sleep. It was just so exhausting, and I was really burnt out at the end. And then so in April, May, I decided that actually now it's time to stop. We've had 12 months of Biograview and print. So that was for me, the sort of the cue to actually stop there with print. So my writers still continue to write, ginger stories that I worked on, and then after that I had to let them go, unfortunately. But I'm still in touch with them. I'm actually meeting up with some next Friday, which is really good. And I met up with my piano writer from Portland a few weeks ago before Christmas, so that was really, really cool. And really, I got some really nice friendships out of that, so really happy. And now, we're just moving forward. I've had like 6 months sort of like time to recover. I've also had COVID in the meantime, which it took me about at least 3 months to get over. So I've only just maybe a couple of weeks felt like I'm recovered. I have recovered, I hope. So that's good, but I've had time to visit family over Christmas and things. Now it's the time to move forward again, and so I really want to focus now more on the student stories, which I did start last year, but then with the whole form change and everything, I haven't really gone back to it. But now the school year is starting again, so I'm hoping to attract schools again and share migrant stories and ethnic experiences, even if students, doesn't matter what level they are, whether they're high school or university, if you have experiences with migrants or Maori heritage or anything, I'd love to hear from you. Doesn't matter where in the country you are. So we do that, and and there are other things in store as well, but I won't reveal that just yet.
I remember the launch of Biograview, and you already had a website and videos and blog about the migrant stories, and it was quite bright as well because your angle is slightly different. It's more narrative, and sometimes you take a topic which is actually quite fresh and questionable. I remember you've done that.
What do you mean by questionable? Because that's maybe not the word.
Maybe this is my English, but you can have several views on the same topic. And I remember the stories were very analytical, and from different points of view you opened it up. And someone told me that it's the only one magazine in the world which shares migrant stories, and here it is, Rachel Taranaki. Quite amazing.
That is really amazing. And actually, it was about a couple of months ago now, I actually was approached by a Mexican company who were researching a topic, and they found Biograview, and they emailed me, and they were just so amazed by it because she said there's like nobody else in the world does this. So that was really good. So I hope we will keep in touch and do more work.
I'm just looking at the website, biograview.com. Under stories, and it's just fascinating. I see there's a bio on Ming Fun, who is our race relations commissioner.
Yeah.
There's something about Basil, the black-backed seagull. There's something about World Heritage Sites, something about the astonishing world of Dunbar Slowdale shares, etc., etc.
Yeah, so it's quite topical and quite a wide variety of topics. But every article, every story relates back to culture, whether that's historical or in the present or in the future even.
I remember the story that you had about females in the Middle East, and there's so much information there. It was amazing. And yeah, it's interesting because every writer brings something of their own, but as an editor, you have to have a direction and a very clear path. Everyone has to kind of follow because strategy and then tactical
Yes.
approach and other things. So obviously, it was your baby, your idea, which came to fruition.
Absolutely, and so I made clear that my writers were, understood the philosophy of Biograview, and of course I didn't edit on my own. I have Philippa Hadlow, who also edited, so you co-edited those stories.
And those
And,
visuals, you also had really good visuals,
Yeah.
photography, and also this little like cartoonish.
I was really lucky with, the material that my writers supplied because, I mean, a lot of it was their own photography or own images, and then I had Charlotte Goodland who did the cartoons in every issue, and that's just lovely. And it's actually nice because of just over the last few days, I've been going through every magazine and looked into every story, and actually it just makes me really emotional going through that again. And it's because there are times when you run a business, there are times when you wonder why you do stuff. It can be very hard, but and then it's so worth it.
We just had a nice little Taranaki moment here, Ingrid, that you might not be aware of. You mentioned the writer and editor Philippa Hadlow.
Yeah.
And her husband is a stalwart, most of them person going way back.
Is he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I
He
didn't
used to have
know
a
that.
show. He used to do this show.
That's a
Oh.
small world.
He used to do the food and
Right,
wine show.
Philippa, because I know Philippa very well.
Yeah. So there you go.
But it's amazing, like Faisal, who is the local chef, and he's a very articulate person. I think he's so lots of other things. And he brought a lot of personality within there, which is really interesting as well. So yeah, and we're all proud of you. But as a person who works in marketing and publishing in Ukraine, I know how harsh the business is.
Oh,
The deadlines are like crazy.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Deadlines are very hard, and especially when you demand so much from your writers and it has to be done, at the right time. There are many stories in a magazine. We run a magazine from like 84 to 108 pages, and it's just really hard work.
And it's always a balance, whether you do editorial as kind of advertising or you just choose the story that you want to the world to know. So you didn't have a lot of advertising. And you
Well, like virtually no advertising. It's always completely self-funded, and that's how passionate I am about it, and I still am. So I'm actually going to enter the T4P Media Awards with one of my stories. So that will be revealed hopefully soon. That would be really exciting. It's actually organised by the Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union and UNESCO. So, and they're all about, diversity, and it's T4P stands for Together for Peace. So that's the theme this year, but it's also about the environment. And so we completely sort of vibe with that. Those awards.
so timely. I think it
Yeah,
should be.
so I mean, that would be so nice to get some recognition. That would be amazing if it happened. But of course, there are going to be hundreds of entries.
Yeah.
I used to do a school magazine. I've done a lot of school magazines in my time, and we would literally cut and paste the articles. And sometimes we were given handwritten material, and we would take it up to the typing class, and the kids would type them up for us. This is before that,
Wow.
the computer era. The question is, how were you doing your layout and your publishing, and how hands-on were you, or was it the printing that did most of it?
So ultimately, what you saw with the finished product was my decision under my direction. But I had a company, TGN Creative, who did my design and layout for me, but then it was still up to me to change things if I want to change, to say, I want this here. So what actually happens is there's like a live document that we work with. I upload all the stories, so that TGN can receive them, and then there's basically like a live Word document where I write instructions for the designer. I want this story here, I want these categories here, I want these stories here, I want these photos here. Everything is described for them so they know where to put it. And then once they do it, they use their own creative talents to make it look amazing. And then I still need to proofread everything, So that actually is quite time consuming as well. And for 2GM, it was really interesting and exciting, an exciting project too, because I've never actually done such a big production before. And smaller, booklets and brochures and things. So it was so different ballgame, but we all learned so much.
How many copies did you publish?
So the printed version, I had 10 magazines. So it was in print from May 2021 until May 2022.
And it went on not only in Taranaki, but also all over New Zealand and all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah, so there were libraries all over the world that subscribed to magazines, like schools and school libraries put magazines as well. And that was actually some of it I didn't even discover until much later, how widespread they actually were, and that was really exciting to find out about. So yeah, super proud of
library or something.
Yeah.
So they're all on the website. So if you were to subscribe,
All stories.
The magazines, are they?
Well, currently, I've stopped at any new subscriptions because I'm not running it as a magazine at the moment. So it's just, we've got now over 300 stories on it. But I'm currently not going to do the magazine. I'm going to work it like completely different from here on in. So, but that will be, I need to talk to a few people about that. Obviously, I don't make those decisions on my own.
Well, we are looking forward to see where it will turn into.
Absolutely. And I mean, the other thing too, actually, I'm not totally sad that it's not in print anymore because I also believe in, protecting the environment and to be eco-friendly. So digital is probably a whole lot better.
Oh, you don't look like a sad person. You look like a very happy person.
Definitely happy.
I want to listen to the second song, and while we're doing it, we might try some food that you brought. Ziti Boni by the Eurovision winners in Meneskin. Did you pronounce it correctly? Is it Meneskin?
I don't know.
I watched them last year.
Yeah, they're at the Eurovision song
Yeah.
contest.
Cool. It's nice that you have included some Italian ones. Do you have some Italians?
Well, we don't have Italian food, but we have gelato, which is Italian. And I thought, oh yeah, Italian ice cream, what can go wrong? So that's, I'm looking forward to.
You want to put some food here, or it might take whatever it goes to wherever it comes.
So I brought some plates.
Oh, lovely.
I brought some tongs.
That website's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very well done.
Brought some napkins.
Stories are amazing.
Icing sugar.
Yeah, we know Faisal and we know Philippa. Do you know any of the others?
Yeah, I know Jennifer. She's also a salsa person. I know the company we had a mutual project at the bottom.
Oh yeah. Charlotte.
Yeah.
The Amokura Kanoho, she looks familiar.
She's from around Taranaki as well.
Yes,
So she's a Tiatiara person, and she actually was the niece of Hannah, the mural. She actually organised that project.
Right.
That was her aunt, Hannah. So they need to be, so they actually have gone a bit flat. So they are apple vineyards.
Oh, it's like apple donut.
Yes, you could say. And so this is icing sugar. And I didn't put icing sugar on it, but we couldn't actually put icing sugar on it, but we can have some flakes.
Is there anything you can't get here that you really miss?
I'm sure there is.
Like cheese, some of the cheeses.
No, you can get cheese at Dutch shops that can
there's that great cheese. Dutch cheese shop in Hamilton.
There is Go Dutch. Yeah, they're in Auckland, Oriwa and somewhere else. Auckland, Oriwa and Auckland. So yeah, go Duchess there, and I should put some icing sugar on because it looks nicer. With the icing sugar on, and it has to be served with icing sugar. And you can decide.
Yeah, it looks like a snow, and it's actually like winter at the
It's,
moment.
that's right. So it's actually sorry. Yeah. So what you do? It's actually New Year's food.
Yeah.
So that's the traditional thing about it.
Welcome
So
back to Taranaki Foodies with Hokai Bistro and Bar. We have
I would
amazing,
just sit
vibrant Ingrid van Amsterdam in the studio. She's the founder and director of Biograview, magazine that delivers stories of immigrants to the world. And also she's a representative of the Taranaki Multi Ethnic Council. And the playlist she brought is very international. We just listened to some Texan music and at the very beginning of the show, and now it was an Italian music by the winners of the last year Eurovision. And Ingrid, is it a representative of your diverse taste in music, or is there any other reason?
Well, I was inspired by the Multi Ethnic Extravaganza that's coming up in New Plymouth, and that'll be on the 4th of March. And we've got over 15 ethnicities that will be feeding us on the day, so that's going to be really exciting. I'm really looking forward
And
to
the
that.
person who is responsible for the food truck area, food truck
Yes,
coordinator.
yeah. I'm the food source coordinator.
When did it last run? I think, didn't it run in 2020?
2020.
And there was a bit of flack, organisers received a bit of flack for that.
It was just before we went into the isolation.
Right.
The full lockdown happened literally a month after.
Oh,
So
okay.
we were completely fine,
Yeah.
but there were some food stall holders that actually weren't able to come because they'd actually also moved out of the area. Like for example, the Malaysian carriage, was one of those. They were based in Owakura, the carriage, and they actually moved to Auckland. And and there was illness, and then the stress because at that time, people were so worried about the virus traveling. It had only just been in the news not that long, maybe a month or so, that we were all like getting bombarded with this new virus that nobody knew anything about. So I think there's a lot of paranoia, and probably rightfully so, because when people think that's it.
Yeah. I remember a lot of criticism of people who arrived, and some of them were doctors, and they said they didn't have this, they didn't have that, they didn't have this, and now we all know what we need, like masks and other things. But some people, it was at the very beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
actually
right,
wasn't
okay.
even aware of that. Like,
Yeah.
that never got back to
Yeah.
the news.
Is there any stalwarts from before that have gone out of business or that walked away from it?
Yeah, no, there are a number of businesses that actually had to quit and that are no longer there. But the interesting thing is there are also some new businesses there that actually are joining us this year. And also there are some businesses who I approached in 2019 for the 2020 Extravaganza who at that time didn't join us, but they're now here. So that's really, really good. So it's been really tough for a lot of people to run their business, and then still hanging in there and still doing well. But one big problem now is because I've had a few declines this year as well. It's just staff shortage.
Yeah,
It's
just everywhere.
How many carriages are we going to have at the Extravaganza? How many spaces?
So at the moment it'll be for the food area, and that includes the Japanese tea ceremony, which is not actually in the same zone, and also Malena's kitchen, spices. So they will be there as well. So there will be almost, roughly 25 to 30 stall holders that will be there.
Wow.
I predict it will be overrun.
I really hope so.
Everybody is just
Everyone's
up
looking
for it.
forward to it.
I
Yeah.
think it will be a great success because everyone started to value events. Before we had too much and people, I shouldn't go, I'll stay at home. But now we understand the value of kind of public events and how many efforts.
Is it weather dependent? I can't remember.
Well, not well, yes and no. I mean, of course, we all hope it's going to be a sunny day like last time. It was such a beautiful day, and hopefully this time again. But you know, people will have their own food trucks, so they're always undercover or gazebos. You know, so I don't think weather shouldn't be a problem. And also, you know, we have performances.
From the common area. So
That's right. That's right.
We will have, of course, arts and crafts. I don't do that's not my area, but and performances, and so there will be a large stage in front of the grandstand. So, and of course, that's undercover as well. And we are hoping to also include a small stage in the area next to the car park. So it's not the food stalls area. So you've got the food stalls area, which is a large paddock in between the car park and the racecourse. Then you've got another grassy area in between there, and there will be arts and crafts stores, and then you've got the large stage for performances. But also there's another smaller paddock which we can use to put a small stage on, and so we are hoping to actually attract some people that can do workshops. So I've already spoken. I only because I know the person. She actually used to produce the proverbs for Biograview. So she's from Greece. And my friend who is an associate professor at Massey University, and so she did research about proverbs from around the world, and she also has held Greek dance workshops. So we're hoping to have her on there too, and some other people that can. So it'll be a lot to do.
What is the date, please?
So it's on the 4th of March.
4th of March, and it's still gold coin?
It's still gold coin donation.
And I hope that the Multi Council can have a present and do live, which was Warwick and Mark last time. They were taking the vibe of my business Extravaganza food into the ear.
That was a lot of fun, and also, you got lots of free samples.
Oh, you will get lots of
food. It's part of the job.
So tell us what we're about to eat, Ingrid, and listeners, I have taken a photograph and I will shortly put it on the Taranaki Foodies Facebook group so that you can see that. From the layman's eye, it looks like a donut.
It kind of is a version of a donut. So these are called apple beignets. And apple beignets are traditional New Year's Eve food in the Netherlands. So what happened, how that came about, because I actually never really knew about the history of it. I just knew that that's always what we did in Holland. And so even here in New Zealand, I still do it. Like, we don't really celebrate New Year's Eve here much, but like in Holland, it's a big thing, like huge.
How do you spell beignets?
Beignets, it's a French word, so it's Beignets. Beignets. It's also, you could say fritters, but beignets. It's multi-plural.
Yeah, fritter, that's better than donuts.
Yeah. So I never really looked into the history of it, but of course, because I came here today, I thought I'd better look at it. So it's actually a history and why we do it. And so for me also, like, because we don't really celebrate New Year's Eve here very often or in a very small way, I thought my tradition has become to do it at Christmas. But this year again, I did it on New Year's Eve, so yeah, flexible.
Well, Christmas and New Year in the Netherlands is very snowy with lots of traditions and other things.
Well, it used to be White Christmases when I was little, and then it sort of became warmer and warmer, global warming. So it's like to get it for White Christmas now is a bit more rare, but we still have them. So anyway, the history of the apple beignet. Hope you like it. So I find them absolutely irresistible. Once I start, I can't stop eating them because
There's lots of
what they are. Let me explain what they are. So an apple beignet is a cored and peeled apple, and then you cut that into slices, into thickish slices, and you put that into a beer batter. So it's basically just plain flour and beer.
Wow.
That's all it is. And it's really light and fluffy, the mixture. So once it's deep fried, so it's a deep fried product.
And any particular type of beer and any particular type of apple?
It had, well, preferably a sour type apple. So I use the green Granny
Tastes
Smith,
like that.
and it can be any beer, but I use the tiger beer.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you would use Heineken.
Actually, I actually don't like Heineken that much.
Well, the Heineken that we have is not the Heineken that I remember trying.
No, it doesn't taste the same. Like everything I have found when you're in a different country, original foods often don't taste, well, imported foods, I have to say, don't taste like they used to taste. Like, for example, one thing I really, really love as well are what you call stroopwafels, which are basically waffles, and they've got like an apple syrup in between, and you can buy them in the supermarket. And I just never buy them because they're just neither really chewy and tough to eat, you know.
Because Heineken has really strict quality control over their product, and they can replicate exactly the beer. They can adjust the water chemistry, they can do everything. But I suspect it tweaked it for the New Zealand palate, and that's why it's different.
And I think also the ingredients sometimes vary from country to country, even if you think, oh, it's still wheat, you know, but it's still a different variety or whatever that they use, you know, like hops or whatever. It's like a different flavour. You can't help it. But anyway, so the history of the apple beignet, actually, there's a few theories on that. But one of us that I quite like, it's quite a lovely story, is in the Middle Ages. Well, let me start right at the beginning. So apparently the Romans, around 200 BC, already had a version of what they called, well, like basically a batter, and then it was basically fried in oil, you know, and that was like the first version of that we know about. So it's a very old food. But then in the Middle Ages, in the Netherlands at least, people started to prepare for winter, you know, and of course oil, you know, is oil and the other ingredients that you use for what they call apple cakes. They actually, that name later changed to apple cakes, they were oil balls. Because there was no apple in it. There was no apple in it. So, but they had like dried fruits like sultanas and things. So we still make oil balls as well. We actually call them oil balls in Dutch. So we serve oil balls and apple beignets. So the oil balls sounds terrible, but it's a similar mixture, a similar dough or mix. Yeah, it's still a yeast or beer batter or whatever, and that's what I like to use because it just tastes so good. And because of the ingredients, it kept for a really long time, and of course over winter, and it was very sustainable. I could give you sustenance in the cold. And what happened in the period between the 11th of November and the 6th of January, the poor would go door knocking and wish people well, and in return they would be given an oil ball, you know, and so they could keep warm, and they would be fed, and they would also keep warm. So that was actually really important, but also a lovely gesture, just from both ways, you know. Yeah, so it's
I
quite
wonder why
interesting.
people stop wishing you well when they ask for money. I think this is
Well,
very
there are
interesting.
different versions because there are still other people that, you know, that we have other celebrations in the world that do similar things. Like you've got the Halloween thing, and there are other. Oh, for example, in the Catholic religion, for example, we would go before fasting. So it would be around early November, I guess. We would actually go. Well, I've never done any door knocking myself, but I remember if we were given sweets or these chocolates, biscuits, or whatever, we would all keep that in a container and not have anything. So that would be our fast. And the fast then, so that would be end of January, you know, so when carnival time came, or like sort of like before Easter, you know, we would then stop the fast and we were allowed to eat, and we like literally binge eat on chocolate and sweets and stuff.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to eat this.
There is another theory also for the apple beignets or oil balls, and apparently there was a goddess. And don't ask me why because I didn't have time to research it. But a goddess called Perchta, I think she would try to slice people or horses' bellies open. And if you ate oil balls, it would be too greasy, and so the sword would slide off, and she couldn't, open the bellies. Yeah.
Don't you like all those old legends? They're so brutal and beautiful.
Yeah. I think it was a Germanic goddess or something. Yeah.
Researching. How about we listen to the third song, and maybe you can announce what country is it from? It's Action by Chai.
And that is a Japanese song.
Awesome. Oh, it's so interesting. You know so many things. You have many stories. Yeah. I'll ask you something after the show.
Well, I do. Sometimes I think back about my life, and I think it was definitely not been boring so far. It's really been really interesting at times. Yeah.
But that's the trick
Unusual.
of living. You have to do something that no one can take from you.
Yeah.
And because things can be. A lot of people do similar things, but certain people do unique things. Like you do. It's amazing.
You're on the what's it called? The festival?
Taranaki Multi
Ethnic Extravaganza.
Yeah.
You're on the trust.
Yeah.
And who's the chair at the moment?
So Lance Smitham is the president.
Lance is used to be the vice president, now he's the president, and we probably need to kind of renew the conversation with the most of them because I think it's very, very suitable for the most. This event.
The other thing too, so Faisal, we spoke about him before. So he's going to interview some of the food stall holders, or hopefully he's got time to do everyone, just to do short blurbs, and we can then put it on our social media page.
Oh, cool.
And so actually talked to Lance last night, and I said it would be really nice if you could also interview him at some point. He's away at the moment. But and he wrote the food stories and Biograview.
He came to our show.
And he's lovely. He's just such a nice. Yeah.
He should be on the breakfast show in the week before.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
He's away at the moment. He's going to the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In Auckland.
Oh, he said it.
Lance is in Berlin.
Has he gone away? Because
it was work engagement.
He's pretty finished out at the moment.
So I can organise that, and Ingrid, I can organise that.
Yeah. We should do some sort of event to launch it. Because I'll also talk to you about this later. So it's nice. So we have Texan, we have Italian, we have Japanese music.
Sorry about the duck. I need to duck down. Remind myself.
So now we're going to kind of wrap up, and you can make an announcement about when it happens. It's free for both coordination. And maybe about the sugar QR code.
I don't have the information for that.
So, it's delicious. Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies with Hawkeye Bistro and Bar. It's us, Elena Williams, and we're at 4, your local foodies and broadcasters, and we had an amazing guest today, Ingrid van Amsterdam. She's the founder and director of Biograview and representative of Taranaki Multi Ethnic Council, and she's also food coordinator for Multi Ethnic Extravaganza that is happening soon. We're going to wrap up the show. Ingrid, would you like to remind us when it happens and what's going on for Extravaganza?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and to the listeners, thank you so much for listening. So we are really excited and really looking forward to having our Extravaganza again this year after 3 years not being able to, or after not for 2 years. So 2020 was the last one, and now 2023 finally we're able to have it. So we're really looking forward to it. It's promising to be a successful, great event. We are promised really good weather as well. So it is going to be held on the 4th of March from 10:30 to 4:30. There will be a parade in town, and then the food stalls will be held at TSB Showgrounds. And so this is where the food stalls will be, and arts and crafts and performances and workshops. So yeah, it's going to be an amazing event. So we're really looking forward to having you there. It's a gold coin donation, so just bring your gold coins.
We're so lucky to have you and other
Yeah,
enthusiasts
that's
and
what I'm
volunteers who run Ethnic Council and Extravaganza, because it's such a huge event, and it's I've heard that some people from outside of the region are going